One. It's Wednesday, June 15th. Does that mean like we're through all the halfway through the year or what? I mean, I don't know. Okay, I'm trying to get my comments, see my people here so I can see you're logging on. I see little eyeballs and numbers going up and all that good stuff. I so appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedules to be with me. You know, I have just been really thinking a lot about the quilt show lately, and thequiltshow.com. I mean, this is an extension, what I'm doing, of thequiltshow.com. And what I love about these lives is that, hey, Kelly, is that there's this interactiveness that's going on. It's not like before where we would present and maybe you could put little comments here and there, though we'd love your comments under the shows and stuff like that. Um, we're communing. So take for example, Friday, where we're going to do a quilt show and tell. I've already been getting a ton of your imagery of your quilts, and I'm going to get as many in as I can, but don't be hurt if yours doesn't make it, because literally I'm going to say, okay, I can do X amount and then just randomly pick. But this is really exciting to me because I'm going to start calling us the TQS Guild, Online Guild, worldwide. TQS, Worldwide Online Guild. So last night, I woke up with a stinking allergy attack. I was so sick. And I thought, God, what happened? Because usually when it's rodeo weekend, I'm done. I have really bad allergies in the spring. And then I remembered I was over at Adair's and we were fixing Jerry's office for his birthday surprise. And that meant, you know, drilling into walls and all this kind of stuff. And we're making it was the kids' playroom, then it was the TV room, and now it's Jerry's office. And I have to tell you, I am really impressed with what my daughter pulled together. He loves Legos, and so he has like all these Lego motorcycles, and she put up shelves, and that's where I was underneath, and it just came down here. So here I am. I think I'm under control. I was going to say I took Xanax, but that's not it. Maybe I need Xanax. Zyrtec this morning and Flonase, and hopefully we can get through this without something disastrous happening right in here. So in that office, there are curtains. They have basically gutted the whole house and have done everything over, and the closet in there is super high, so standard closet doors are just not available. This is the fabric that hangs on those closet doors. I love this fabric. Love it. I believe it was from IKEA. And Adair said, well, now that it's becoming a grown-up room, maybe he wants to do white curtains. I'm like, no, leave that fabric. Is so cool. It is so groovy. And he came home and he's an executive that works for Crate and Barrel, and they're doing all these things online. And he said, no, we're not taking it down. It is expected to be behind me. And speaking of cat, well, no, another thing is her girlfriend Sam, her wifey, has that yardage too from IKEA. She had curtains and then she made pillows, and I called her and I go, Sam, if you have any of that fabric left that you want to get rid of, please give it to me. I don't know what I'll do with it, but I love that fabric. Okay, and speaking of you know who, here she comes. One other thing, I'm like this, I'm protecting my keyboard. I may have to have John come and get her. She is calming down a little bit. No, a little bit. And this was last night. And this is her with my mom's kitten, Grandma D's, which is one reason she's High D, that she actually held in her arms when she passed away. And this kitten and that stuffed animal, they're like that. Today's show is going to be with Lilo. And oh, by the way, she is on. And so if you have questions, you're going to ask Lilo and she'll pop in. Now, remember, when you type questions in, there's about a 7-second delay. So Lilo, I am handing it over to you, okay, as far as the questions with the things, okay? Oh, and then the other thing I want to share with you is that Robin sent me this picture. of the quilt she's working on, and this was before I said show and tell, please, for Friday. She's taken the BOM and she's taking neutrals. And well, let me show you what she's done. Okay, sit down because this took my breath away. It's just beautiful, Robin. I mean, just absolutely gorgeous. This is so inspiring to me. I can't wait to see it finished. So, if you're doing a different color suggestion for the BOM, I love seeing those so that I can share with you. Okay, so Robin, I'm telling you, this took my breath away. Thank you so much for sending it to me. Okay, one of the questions that we've gotten a couple times on the forum is about pressing. And how did I press our neutrals quilt? And the question, I can't tell you, who knows? But I do have some hard, fast rules that are kind of my rules. First of all, I want to press in a way, if possible, that one seam's going one way and one seam's going the other way so that they can adjacent to each other. By the way, if you go to thequiltshow.com, go to learn and enter in the search bar pressing, you'll have 1,000 different ways people do it. But these are my rules, okay? I don't care if I'm pressing light to dark, dark to light, well, especially on this neutrals quilt. But that's for seam alignment. But let's say you've got something like this, okay, like a flying geese that's gonna have this next to it. Well, it's gonna wanna press this way because this is a stronger union. So if I were to press this way, I'd end up with this weird little lump here. So you kind of have to pay attention what the piecing is. Another rule of mine is, let's say I'm going down a long line and there's some of these going this way, some of these going this way. I might consider pressing open, but remember, when you're pressing open, you want your threads to match the fabric. Otherwise, when you press open, you're gonna see. Another time I consider pressing open is when I have 6 or more seams coming together, like the center of a Lemoyne star, okay? So I can't say, well, this one went this way, this one went that way. I am so sorry because I don't remember. I made this quilt 5 months ago, but I just go to my general rules of pressing. And, speaking of thequiltshow.com, don't forget, you guys, it is a plethora of information. It's too much if you want to get right down to it. It's almost too much. So, it's all there, right at your fingertips. And I'm going to do my PBS announcement here. Please support thequiltshow.com. It's $49.95 a year. Without that, this does not exist. All right, it all works together like a good, solid marriage. And if the thought of subscribing to something online kind of turns your belly, think of it as your online guild dues. Okay, so anyways, Lilo, we absolutely adore. And her big deal is organization. And I'm looking for her right here. There we go. And somebody wrote me, I think it was me, I'm not sure, it might have been her, and they wanted to know about quilt storage. And I went, wow, that is really good. That is really good because there's lots of ways to store quilts. And it's not the end all be all. It's just some different ways. And there were some things I hadn't thought about. And remember, Jane, thank you for renewing. Remember, when you renew, you get a 25% discount one-time shopping in the store. So take advantage of that. All right. So Lilo, are you sitting down? You guys have questions? Ask. Here we go. Hey, Lilo, how are you?
I'm doing good. We're both with our young office assistants. You were just saying earlier that things can get a little noisy on occasion during live interviews. So hopefully everyone will behave today.
Well, mine's asleep, so.
No, mine's running back and forth on squirrel duty.
Oh, there you go. Okay, so I love it when people contact us and say, can you talk about XYZ? And if it comes to organization, I don't even think twice about it. I scoot it on to Lilo, And one of the questions was storing quilts. And I thought, yeah, I mean, that's a huge subject matter. So, Lilo Bowman, I threw it to you, you caught it, and you've got some great ideas.
Well, first of all, we're going to just sort of start with some real basic things and then go much more in depth. I don't have a huge amount of quilts in my house. Most of them I've made and they live on somebody else's bed. But maybe you have a stack of them, and I know you do, Alex. So the easiest thing right off the bat is if you happen to have a guest bed that's not being used, you can use your guest bed. Now, one of the things that you want to consider when you're laying them on the guest bed is that you ideally like to have a white cotton sheet. So this is a great opportunity to hit all those estate sales, all those thrift stores, and look for white cotton sheets that you lay between one quilt and another.
And what's your thought on that, Lilo? Why? And this is the late Roberta Horton that we did a um, a show on with her sister as our legends, and that's a what is it? 1513. I'm just throwing this out so people can catch up. But why the white? Why?
Well, the white doesn't have any dye in it. It's probably been washed 100,000 times, so definitely, it's not going to transfer. It also separates one quilt from another so the things are not rubbing and the fabric isn't getting agitated from
Oh,
one kind
okay.
of quilt and could potentially, depending on, like you say, you don't wash a lot of your quilts. So having them lay right up next to each other might transfer something. So I'm not pointing fingers, I'm just making suggestions.
No, I think that that's a it's a very good observation. Also, you could have beads or something like that too.
Right. And then you also don't want to just leave all those quilts stacked in that layer for years on end. You want to do a shuffle occasionally so
Oh,
that the one on the bottom goes on the top because that's a lot of weight. And after a while, that one on the bottom is going to be super flat if you just leave it there for years.
okay.
The other thing about bed is make sure that the curtains are closed. Even that sun coming through those little blinds is going to make a nice little line right across that quilt if you don't have it closed all the way. So keep that in mind as well.
Okay.
That's a super easy one. And I know other people like folding their quilts because it's takes up less room. There's nothing wrong with folding it. Ideally, you want to use archival tissue paper, not the stuff you get from the dollar store, Target, or whatever, but something that's really acid free because, again, it's going to help protect the fabric. And if you're going to fold it, make it so that there's sort of like a snake of the tissue paper in between. So, again, you're not getting that hard crease where the folds are.
So you
And
put the snake where the fold will be.
yes,
Gotcha.
yes. And like anything else, change the folds around every couple of years so it's not just staying that way.
And also, I
Um,
say too, if you have to fold minor wall quilts, I'll fold it horizontally so that when they go on the wall, they kind of, fold out. And I know there's a bunch of different snazzy ways to fold things too, but for me, it takes up too much room. I kind of have a problem.
Yeah. Well, we have no idea. I mean, how much space people have.
Right.
You may be in a really small space. Maybe you live in an area where you're prone to a lot of fires, like Ricky. So guess where he stores his? In a suitcase. So that way he knows it's just a matter of grabbing that suitcase,
Yep.
throwing it in the back of the car, and you're going. Open that suitcase up occasionally, let it,
Right.
the air get into it. But I thought that was a really clever idea if you're in an area prone to fire or flooding or anything like that. Okay, so that's kind of the basics. Now, what about if we want to maybe hang things instead, rather we don't have a bed? So this is Deborah Boschert's method. She uses those skirt and pant hangers that we find. You can find those everywhere. You simply just clip them on. Larger ones, she just gently gives them a fold and clips them on and hangs them up. And it's in a closet, so the light's not getting to it. She can get to them easily if she needs them for class. That's a really easy, simple way to do that.
My friend Diana McClellan does that too, which is lovely. And then again, we did a show with Deborah. It's 2108. We're starting to throw in the show numbers because it's kind of amazing the plethora of information that's available right at your fingertips.
Oh, absolutely. And you know, it's not like I make up and come up with these things all on my own. It's I see ideas from other people, so we're just sharing the
Right.
love. Now, everybody is probably, especially since I live here in Texas and it seems like everyone has a swimming pool, so a lot of us have pool noodles. And a lot of the pool noodles come with these little holes in them all the way through. So I saw this idea, which I thought was really good. You slice down the length of the pool noodle, whatever length you need, and you slide it onto a hanger, and then you can hang your quilt on. Again, to not have so much stress on it, this gives a little bit of a buffer for that. Now, this is the biggest hanger I could find. So my quilt is, I don't know, it's like 24 or 5 inches wide, but dry cleaners have those really large ones that you
Yeah.
can get for blankets or drapes. That would be another really simple way of doing it. And if you're again worried about it, cover the pool noodle with some fabric so that it's not right up against your your quilt itself. Um, Another idea that I saw that Leah Day had is literally you're making a sleeve for the pool noodle itself. So think of the pool noodle, and then you've made a cover for that. And then you make a second cover, which is a little bit larger. Maybe it's just one from the leftover fabric. Sorry.
Bless you.
And what you do is you slide the sleeve that has the pool noodle with your quilt wrapped around it inside the larger sleeve, which is now the protective bag to hold your quilt in. And that's on a YouTube that she has on her channel.
Hmm.
And I thought that was a really nice idea. You're using up some of your leftover fabric, maybe from the same project. And then everything is clean. It's out of light, and dust is not getting on it. And your quilt is protected. She puts hers up on shelves.
Now I have to smile because remember when we taped her show, that quilt behind her, in case you guys missed it, wasn't it like she quilted a little square every day for a year, right?
Yeah.
To get down
Yeah.
to hone in her quilting. And she shared it, right? Like
Oh my gosh, it was 365 days she had a different quilting design. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I just realized I had another one that we were going to show about hanging, a really
okay.
cool one. This is Lee Chappell, who has a teeny tiny house. I think it's around 1925, and she doesn't have a lot of room in her quilt studio. So her dad built her these quilt storage racks, which literally go floor to ceiling in her dining room, and she hangs her works in progress up there as well as her quilts that she uses for her lectures. 5 years they get shuffled around because she's pulling them down and using them for her lectures and things. So that's another easy hanging one, and they're beautiful
They're
while they're hanging out.
beautiful.
Put them out in your living room or dining room. Absolutely.
Oh, I mean, can you imagine sitting down there and enjoying a meal in that environment? I can't imagine that I could even pay attention to anything but the quilts, you know?
I would imagine there's a lot of discussion about the quilts when people come over because
Yep.
it's so obvious they're right there and she can talk about them. I just think that's a lovely idea. Okay, so getting back to other ways of rolling. What about this? I think this is fabulous. This is super easy. This is Jackie Gehring 2 or 3 houses ago. I lost track. She's moved a bunch. But she had a space down in a lower part of the house that was cool, and it was large enough to take all these different sizes of PVC pipe and build a cabinet that she could just roll up the quilts and slide those in there. And I think that's another brilliant
That's
idea.
brilliant. Now, you just mentioned something. Do you consider where you store them to be important, like in your house?
I do. I have an attic, but the temperature here goes from, -10 in the winter to 110 outside. So in the
Mhm.
attic, it's even hotter. So that's a huge temperature fluctuation. So that is not good on textiles. It's not good on furniture, anything of that sort. So I definitely wouldn't put it up there. And then let's say maybe you live in an area where it's really moist and damp in the basement. That's another area that also would not be a place that would be great to keep quilts and things stored. Ideally, you want it someplace where the temperature isn't fluctuating vastly. So in your house, if possible. And I know you have a place that you store your quilts. So tell us about about where I discovered where
Well,
yours were.
well,
The
when
first
we
time I came
built,
to your
I'll start with the big girl way. When we built the sewing room, I for sure did not want the quilts against the wall that would have the setting sun, because in Livermore it can just get disgustingly hot. But I also have a glass cabinet in our guest bathroom. And they're beautiful in there. They're folded, they're beautiful. But the problem is then you really can't use that because if mildew gets in there, from a shower, you are in trouble. And speaking of
house.
mildew, I'm going to say too, and you can say that's right. Don't put it in a tight Tupperware. Don't do anything like that. I think that's another mildew beast.
Yes, because think of it as if you can't breathe in there, neither can your textiles.
So,
And
so I made a chuppah for Joey and Shelley's wedding, and they got married outdoors in Santa Barbara. And I mean, it was glorious. But the florist, when they took down the stand of that, I know they just shoved that. It was silk into a plastic bag. And when I got it back for the magazine, I wanted to photograph it. It had mildew. And fortunately, I believe we caught it before, the whole thing turned black, which it would have. I dry cleaned it, which you're not supposed to, but I did. And then I washed it with, some sort of fabric thing. And I just pray it stopped. And now, of course, I've put it in a pillowcase so it can breathe.
yeah, and that's what I have. The quilts that I have is I usually have them folded, and I have them in all of these various pillowcases that I've gotten at vintage sales and that sort of thing. But I don't make really large ones either. But yeah, absolutely. None of that kind of regular plastic that you would see out is not a good idea. So
So,
um,
so let's pretend we're going to play a game because it's never happened. Let's pretend I got best of show at Houston. And I bring my quilt home with me. And I mean, this is like best of show, a life
right,
work. I don't think
right.
I like any of the options that have been put forward.
Well, the other one I wanted to bring up as well was a lot of people have hope chests or wooden trunks. That's another one that is you just laying it right into the trunk is not a good idea because the wood can put brown stains on things. So you want to definitely not have the quilt right up against that. Um, and also know, let's say this is the quilt that is yours that you're going to pass on to your
The one, the
the
one.
one, and you are known for certain pieces of jewelry that you wear all the time. And the kids want to put some of your jewelry in there. Some of it's good jewelry, some of it's costume, maybe some photographs. They want to put all that together and they want to store that. And the idea with that is really great. But what everything that I've been reading about archival is you should put like with like. So photographs, they emit chemicals because there are chemicals in the photography that could then infiltrate the textile. The same thing with jewelry. We never know I mean, most of yours is fine jewelry, but let's say you had some piece that was a costume piece and you purchased it somewhere and we don't know what the materials are. So having those kinds of things laying with that prize winning best of show quilt is not a good idea.
Mm-mm, mm-mm.
Okay, so we got that worked out.
So now we're
Now,
going to the big girl storage.
now we're going to the big girl store because this is stuff that is a little bit costly, but the idea with it is that you're doing the same thing or as much as you can, similar to what museums like the Smithsonian or the George Washington um, or the Textile Museum in Lincoln. I mean, they are really going as far as they can with trying to protect the pieces that they have. Ideally, you want to lay your quilts down flat. At the Textile Museum in Lincoln, they have these enormous drawers.
Wasn't that in a show, Lilo? Wasn't that in the
Yeah,
Michael
yeah,
James
we
show?
got that where we had
Was Michael
uh,
James?
Michael James, yes, where we went down and we got to look at those. They're just these enormous long drawers, and the quilts are laid out flat. Well, who has a house that size?
Right,
Not many of
right.
us
But oh, that
uh,
was
that
amazing.
are able to do that. But you notice there was nothing else in there. It was the quilt. It was a sheet that was over it and a sheet underneath. And so this is where we're getting into much more serious kind of thing, like for your best of show. So there are three different companies that I've found that all have varying degrees of different things that you can purchase. So they are Gaylord, Archival, and University. And so they have, as you see in this image, this is a kit. It comes with a box that is archival. It comes with tissue paper. It comes with white gloves because you don't want to handle your quilt with, hands that have been just eating a sandwich, a few minutes beforehand. There's also a little thing called a desiccant that's in there to keep moisture out
Oh,
of.
really? Hey, I just had an idea.
Yeah.
What if, no, because you have something that's breathable. Like, would that be equal to like when you get pills and it's got the little pouch thing in it to keep it from getting moist?
Yeah, or like in your shoes, when you purchase
Yeah.
shoes at the store, it's the same kind of thing
Interesting.
that
Okay.
to keep it
Okay.
out. And so that's one company's version. But if you
Here's
ever want to look
university.
at
There's
this,
another one.
there's University. You see that one is a little longer rectangular box
Mhm.
that you can get, and they are a little bit on the pricey side. So these are going to be an investment. But again, this is your best of show quilt. You want this to be around for a long time. There's also tubes that come. They're not the regular tubes that are the mailers that you get for shipping, across the country. These are, again, everything is archival. It's really there to protect, keep moisture out, control the environment that it's in. And so just Google textile preservation or look up, like I said, these three different companies: Gaylord, Archival, and University.
Okay.
And then put in textile, and you'll get lots of information about the tissue paper they have, the boxes, the different sizes that they offer. Yeah, that's a good way to
This
go with
is
that.
this is such great information. And Lilo, you are still continuing doing lectures for guilds and customizing them for people. So just
Yeah,
like this was put together, thank you. I can't even remember who asked it. Okay, but somebody wrote me and asked. I went, this is a fabulous subject matter. I mean, this
yeah,
could go on
because we all,
forever.
yeah, because we all deal with this. We all have things we want to save and pass on to, our children or grandchildren. And so let's do the best job that we can to preserve that.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, I'm still lecturing. In fact, I'll be giving two lectures at Quilt Festival this fall. So
great.
if you're not in a guild, you can catch me at Quilt Festival.
Great.
Yeah,
Well, thank you so, so much. And I think our babies are behaving. At least
they
mine's
are.
passed out. She should be after this morning. So, hey, thanks so much. And I'm sure we'll be talking to you soon, if not this afternoon, right?
Yeah, and then again, if you've got some questions, write to us. Let us know because we're always looking. And just because we don't think about it, it's always great to come up with a new subject that gets us digging around a little bit.
And your
Yeah.
email is?
My email is lilo@thequiltshow.com. That's my work email here. But I also have Lilo Bowman at lilobowman.com, which is my personal business site as well. So that
Okay,
works.
and then I've got for you guys ALEXANDRSN at Gmail.
All right. Either way, you can come get us.
Signing
Thank you.
off.
All right.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Bye
Bye bye.
bye. That was really good information. Thank you so much, Lilo. One person brought up moss, okay? I don't think it's not an issue with cotton, okay? It's just not an issue. But what if you have wool quilts? I don't know. I'm gonna root around and see what I can find about that. I do know that back in the day when I started quilting, an Amish wool quilt, like the old-fashioned ones, they ran back in the day, 40 years ago, starting at $7,000 each, okay? And they're wool. And I thought, wow, who even wants that responsibility thinking of wool? When we were in Italy, they had the same kind of wool that was used with the Amish quilts. And I thought, oh gosh, I've always wanted to make a wool quilt. And I'm not talking about Sue Spargo stuff like that, but like wool, like tailor wool. And I thought, no, I don't want to do it because I don't want the responsibility. Now, one other thing, it's my understanding with wool batting, if you have cotton on each side, it acts as a firewall so that the moths come up and go book, like that. So yeah, you can do cedar and this and that. I don't know. I'm not an aficionado about wool, and I would love to talk to somebody who is, because wool is a lovely, lovely fiber to work with. Okay, so Lilo, you just said lavender in a cloth bag helps for wool. Huh, that's interesting. I just love you guys, okay? Um, Jeannie put up that there's a whole thing on how to bias fold quilts so that you don't have the lines, you know. MSQC has a bias fold tutorial. All right, so you can go look at that. Also, I just want to say I love Lee's the way she displayed them in her dining room. I just love it. You know, it's funny. I got to get to know her because of TQS, and just the other day she was at C&T, and I got to go have lunch with her. She is just fabulous, a kick in the total pants. So let me tell you and oh yeah, Jackie Gearings was pretty cool too. You know, very, very creative people. Oh yeah, we're quilters. So, two things I want to discuss on us, three things. On Saturday, Dee is going to go through a whole thing on rotary cutters and rulers and like what size for what and all that. So that's really good. I'm absolutely astonished that she's willing to do a live this next Saturday because she moved yesterday. Dee, I'm thinking of you, and it's only 100 million degrees outside. All right. So, the next thing I want to say is that I'm going to do a series of these interviews with Katie Fowler. Her new book came out. She's been on the show. If you haven't seen her show, you you are missing something big. I mean, big. And this new book, when I saw it, I went, oh my gosh, this is Katie Fowler all in a nutshell. She is such a good teacher. And so she sent me an outline, and it's kind of adherent to the book. And we're going to go through numerous subject matters. That's basically what our next class is going to be, because we're still trying to sort out the fabric and all that for our actual sew project. So I was beyond delighted when she said yes. And so we'll be going through a lot of really fabulous information. Everything from well, why is it foolproof, first of all, to be an art quilter? You know, color theory, composition and design, materials, just all sorts of really good stuff. Okay. She's a creativity coach also. And then, one moment. Uh-oh, my Siri's talking to me. And then Friday, I'm very excited because you're sending me pictures of what you're working on now. And I will try and get as many in as I can because I think this will be just super fun. We're going to have our first guild quilt show. I just called it that. And then next week we're off for John's birthday. So then when I get back, we'll start the Katie thing. Today, as soon as I hang up here, I got to go buy a new kitchen faucet. The plumbers are coming. We got issues going on here. All right. All right. I thank you, Lilo, for putting up Katie Fowler's show 1807. I'm not going to tell you about it, but it was a mind blower. A mind blower. And you'll be all down on this next series after you watched it. So have a good day. Off to the hardware store. And somebody's sound asleep. She wore herself out. She's becoming less crazy. So there she is. Love that cat. See you later, guys. Bye-bye.